Hello and welcome to the 4th episode of In the Kitchen with a Single Dad. I'm the Single Dad. I'm your host, Nate Mercer, and tonight I'm going to teach you guys how to cook what we call in my family London Broil, which I found on sale. Single dads, you know we love finding that. We're going to do that, some mashed potatoes and gravy, some green beans, some snap beans, and some yeast rolls. So let's go ahead and get into this right now. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is get our protein going. This is going to take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We'll check it just to see how tender it is around an hour. But so what we'll do is we'll just grab a sheet pan, throw our roast, our London Broil out on it, grab some sea salt, and go ahead and don't be scared to season this thing up pretty good. Salt and pepper. I like to add a little bit of garlic powder to mine, just a little bit. Not too much, just give it a little garlic flavor. Same thing on the other side. This dish is cooked in a Dutch oven, which is a thick bottomed, I've already got it going pretty hot here. This is a very thick bottomed aluminum pan. They cook them the best, they retain the heat. So what we're gonna do is we wanna get a nice sear on the outside of both sides. I've already got the pan really hot. We're gonna add some olive oil. We're just gonna go ahead and drop our whole roast right down in there. And instantly it'll start sizzling up. And we're gonna let that get a nice sear on both sides. Okay, so our roast has been searing on one side for a couple minutes now. I'm really starting to smell goodness in my house. And so, as you can see, it's got a nice caramelization sear on that. I'm just gonna flip it over and let it cook on the other side. Do the same thing. We've got both sides of our roast seared. So what you wanna do, grab you some pot handles, pot holders, bring it over to the sink, because that pan is screaming hot. And what we're gonna do is add water and cover it up. The technique that we're using right now, this process is called braising. It's where you sear your proteins to kind of lock in the juices, and then you're gonna cover it and submerge it in water, and then we're gonna slowly roast it and bring it up to temp in the oven. So what we're gonna do now, that we've got it covered in water, I bought some onion soup mix and some brown gravy packets. You need to add 1 pack of onion soup and 2 brown gravy mixes to this liquid. And that's gonna make our braising liquid, kind of like our gravy. It's gonna make it taste really nice, trust me. I told you I was gonna tell you guys why we call this a ruby roast in my family. A lady from Conway, South Carolina, her name was Ruby Johnson, gave my mother this recipe. She was a family friend of ours, and she's passed away now. And it's pretty cool that her legacy can live on through her recipes and food, and that's something that's special about food to me. You know, you never forget music and smells of food and just those dishes that your grandma cooked for you when you were a child. Like, you can always remember them, or at least I can. So that's pretty cool that we're still eating this recipe, and that's why we call this dish a ruby roast, after her. Fun little family fact for you guys. Okay, so I've got the onion soup mix in there. I've already got 1 gravy mix. We'll go ahead and add the other one. And I like to go ahead and add these back on the burner that we seared it on to get that liquid hot before we throw it into the oven, so it's like a kickstart to bringing it up to temp. So alright, I got a little whisk here. I'm just gonna try to get it stirred in, get that gravy mix and soup powder dissolved. Okay guys, so that's looking good, it's smelling awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and cover this up with the lid, throw it in our preheated oven that we've got at 325 degrees. All right, boom, set your timer for an hour because we're gonna check it in an hour. Okay, so now we've got the roast in the oven. what we need to go ahead and do is get our potatoes peeled, and also I've got snap beans. So we've got ends of beans that we have to snap like Grandma used to do on the front porch. I don't know if anybody ever helped her, but I was always her big helper and like to help her take the ends of the beans off so she could can them, and then I like to, you know, eat them the most. So let's go ahead and, I got 2 pounds of little Idaho potatoes here. We're just gonna go ahead and peel them. Let's go ahead and get into it right now. We need to go ahead and get these green beans going because they're the next longest cook item. So these are snap beans. You might have seen them on your grandma's porch back when you were younger or whatever. But really you just want to snap that one end off. And this is where you get your kids involved. You know, have them help you snap the beans because this is... Oh, did it? Yeah, okay. But this is where it's a little bit more labor intensive, and you want to go ahead and teach them, you know, how things are done, how food's prepared. So for our green beans, we're gonna do like a southern style green bean, which you start off with bacon. We've got our pan preheated. I'm gonna go ahead and drop these bacon lardons that we've diced up down in the pan. We'll go ahead and get them rendering. And while this bacon's starting to render, we'll go ahead and dice our red onion. So now that we've got our bacon rendering down, you can see it's starting to get a little caramelization on it. The fat's releasing out of it. We're gonna go ahead, I only diced half of that red onion. I think that should suffice for 2 pounds of green beans, just to give it a little onion flavor. You don't want to overpower it with onion because it really is all about the green beans. But anytime you start off something with bacon and onions, you're setting yourself up for some awesomeness, trust me. Mmm, smells like mama's house. Okay, so we've got our onion cooking down with the bacon. So now we're gonna go ahead and add in our already snapped green beans. We removed all the ends off. Okay. I've got a quart of some chicken broth here. We'll just go ahead and add that in. But it looks like I'm gonna have to use 2 of them to cover these beans up. If you didn't have it, you could cover them up with water. There'll still be enough flavor involved. We're still gonna add some salt and pepper. But when you add this much chicken broth and cook your beans down, you'll be glad you did. Now we've got our green beans, bacon, onions, and chicken broth in the pan. We're gonna go ahead and add some more kosher salt, season them up. Kosher salt, and of course, some cracked black pepper. We're gonna bring these up to heat, cover them up, and these are gonna cook for probably about 45 minutes. I like to cook my beans till they're very, very tender. All right, so we've got our potatoes all peeled and rinsed. What I'm gonna do is just go ahead and quarter them, because that's gonna make them a little bit smaller and it'll take some of the cook time down, because when you're not cooking such big potato pieces, it won't take as long to make them cooked all the way through. And when you're cooking potatoes, you want to start them off in cold water and bring them up that way. Some people start boiling the water and then drop potatoes in it. What that does is you're going to start cooking the outside first, and you'll have a really mushy exterior and a crunchy inside. So don't do that with your potatoes, folks. Potatoes are diced. We put cold water on them. We're going to go ahead and turn the heat on high, cover them up, and we're gonna boil them for probably 25 minutes until when you fork them, they're soft all the way through. All right, now that we have the roast in the oven, the beans on the stove, the potatoes on the stove, it's the weight game. So what do you do right now? You get your kids together and you have a dance party.
Boom! Potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, pork, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken. You name it!
I've got now is about 1.5 cups of milk and a whole stick of butter. And we're gonna go ahead and throw that on the stove and bring it up slow so the butter can melt, and we don't want to scorch that milk. We need to go ahead and pull this thing out and go ahead and check how it looks. Woo, steaming real good in there. That's a good sign. It smells amazing, you guys. It smells so awesome. It smells like my mom's house. Like, it reminds me of like Thanksgiving or something. Take this lid off. Look at that. It's not quite tender enough yet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to give it a good stir, make sure that gravy and soup mix is all still mixed up pretty good. Probably another 30 minutes, we'll check it again. So now that we've got our potatoes cooked to where you put a fork in them and they are like soft, they won't even really hold on to your fork, we're ready to go ahead and strain those off into a colander. Just to drain the water off. We'll toss them right back into our pan here. And the first thing you want to do is get your salt out, because potatoes take a lot of salt. And you can see me, I'm giving the top layer a nice coating of kosher salt there. And here we have our milk and butter mix that we melted together. We're gonna go ahead and add half of it, because we can always add more, but you can't take it out. Shout out to Nan. What's up, Nanny Margie? I'm about to use your potato masher here. So we're just gonna get to work. By using a potato masher, we're gonna be able to keep some of that rustic big chunks in there, which reminds me of like Thanksgiving Day. Makes me think of my grandmother's mashed potatoes, which are the best mashed potatoes in the world. This is the best part of the meal, when you can actually take the roast out. I threw in the yeast rolls for the last 15 minutes. They're browning up now. So let's go ahead and get in here and check this out when you pop this lid off. Bam, look at that thing. Actually, boom, sorry Emerald, it's boom, that's mine. I don't want you using that either, bro. Wow, yes. Look at this, come here. So when you put your fork in it and just start to turn it, and you see that thing ripping apart with no pressure at all. Oh my goodness. We're about to eat so good tonight. So what we've got here is a falling apart roast. Basically, I'm just gonna get a nice big hunk for myself. I'm gonna cut straight across that. Try to keep it intact for presentation purpose. But if it falls apart, you know you did it right. Like it's doing right now. Yeah, I nailed this roast right here. So we'll put our mashed potatoes down, kind of off to the center of the plate a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and make that little traditional mashed potato hole, so we can drop some gravy right in that thing. Bam. Boom, I mean. Go ahead and throw our roast up on the side like that. Get some of these green beans out. We got the bacon and the onions, everything going. Our yeast rolls are about to come off right now. So let's go ahead and throw some of these green beans up the side of our mashed potatoes like that. I mean, it's Thanksgiving-esque, but this thing's gonna look sexier than it did at your mom's house, I promise you that. Go ahead and drop a couple of the rolls right there on the side, and then boom, there you have it. This is not a quick meal, but it's a meal that's worth it. Another one that looks like it came from a restaurant, but it did not. We can go ahead and drop a little more gravy on that thing for a presentation purpose. You learned how to do this right here in the kitchen with a single dad. And finally, the moment we've been waiting for, the hours that we waited for our roast to cook, it has come to where we can sit down with our family and enjoy a meal that we cooked. Where are you at right now, Connor?
In the kitchen to sit with Dad.
in the kitchen with a single dad. Madison, tell them what they need to do.
You need to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And just like always, until next time,
See you later.
we'll see you later.
Boom!
Boom!